legislative year of the 27th term of the Turkish Grand National Assembly will bring auspicious results to our country, our nation, this great institution, and its members. I pay homage to all past members who have served our country in our Grand National Assembly since the day of its inauguration. I wish good health and well-being to all of our past members and Allah's blessings on those who have passed away. I extend my gratitude to Gazi Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the first Speaker of the National Assembly and the founder of our Republic, and all others who have made significant contributions to the growth and development of our country. I would like to salute with mercy, gratitude, and respect the memory of the martyrs and veterans who have valiantly fought to make this land, which has been our home for 1,000 years, and our homeland. I wish success to our security and intelligence forces who continue the struggle in Turkey and abroad, and pray that Allah protects them and leads them to victory. We will always be vigilant, firm, and prepared in this struggle, since we know that it will continue until doomsday. We attach special importance to symbolic anniversaries such as the centennial of the Republic, the 600th anniversary of the conquest of Istanbul, and the millennial anniversary of the victory of Manzikert, in order to preserve the tangible and spiritual heritage of our ancestors. The extent of our historical knowledge and the way we cherish our past shall determine our confidence in our future. Our actions are based on this understanding. This is why communities and states whose histories span only a few centuries try so hard to invent a deep-rooted history for themselves. Turkey is one of the few countries in the world who can pride itself in having an uninterrupted state tradition for more than 2,200 years over a vast geography. Therefore, our country cannot resort to the methods employed by states that have no roots, traditions, or morals, and who draw their power from colonialism and greed. The deep-rooted and noble presence of our Grand National Assembly in the legislature is the most precious legacy that we will be leaving to our children. I would like to express my gratitude to all members of our parliament who have adopted a firm stance to support our country's fight against terrorism and to protect our rights in the international arena. Likewise, our parliament, through its work, has shown that it is a beacon of hope not only for our nation, but also for our friends, including Turkish Cypriots and our brothers in Azerbaijan, the Balkans, North Africa, as all around the world. Esteemed members of parliament, this year marks the 100th anniversary of the opening of the Turkish Grand National Assembly, which was celebrated by prayers, takbirs, joy, and a lot of enthusiasm at the time. Unfortunately, the anniversary coincided with the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. As a result, we were unable to celebrate this anniversary in a way that befitted its significance. God willing, having achieved our goals, we will celebrate the 100th anniversary of the foundation of our Republic with celebrations worthy of its glory. Our parliament is not just an ordinary assembly. This House embodies the will of the people based on the principle, sovereignty unconditionally belongs to the nation. This is the veteran assembly that commanded our country's war of independence by declaring freedom or death. This is the home of a nation that has defended its future and independence against all odds by saying, "It is a madman who tries to put me in chains. I defy the very idea." This is the founding assembly of the Republic of Turkey, our final refuge in our geography. All democratic transformations that began with the transition to multi-party politics have also been undertaken by the Grand National Assembly of Turkey. Despite the coup and coup attempts, memorandums, and insidious attempts by the regimes of tutelage, this blessed roof has always protected the dignity of the nation it represents. Some events that we do not wish to remember have also taken place here. However, those events do not take away the greatness of the values represented by our assembly. The bold and firm stance adopted by this very assembly on the 9th of July 15 in particular has become a part of the history of democracy in the world. I hope that those who accuse Turkey of landing a democracy without paying a price felt ashamed of their defamatory ideas on the night of July 15. Our parliament, which is the manifestation of the national will, has succeeded in fulfilling its responsibility after every trouble that our nation has experienced or fended off. Our parliament has the biggest share in the achievements of our country. The reforms, regulations, and decisions enacted under this roof, as well as the praiseworthy positions adopted by this assembly in the last 18 years alone, reflect an exceptional success story. God willing, our parliament will continue to make history with even greater success in the upcoming period. Our parliament has many more tasks to fulfill on Turkey's journey towards its 2023 targets. The presidential system of government has enabled our parliament, as well as other institutions, to concentrate on their main area of activity. There is no doubt that it will take time for such fundamental changes in government to be implemented in the best way possible. We're experiencing the challenges of implementing a new system based on old habits and attitudes in every area. However, we also observe that the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary branches are in the process of aligning and developing themselves within the new system. We are eliminating the legal and executive shortcomings that we have identified by introducing reforms, and we are constantly raising the bar. God willing, Turkey's achievements in this regard too will set an example for the rest of the world. I believe that our parliament will conduct a very important work in this context in the new legislative year. I also believe that our parliament is the best place to draw and protect the line between political rivalry and the race to serve our country and the people. I would like to thank all members of the parliament from all parties who will contribute to the work of the parliament in the new legislative year. Distinguished members of parliament, as you might have observed, recent years have been very busy and bear witness to developments that would have normally taken decades to unravel. There are two very important reasons for this. First, Turkey has made a series of democratic and economic leaps in this period on issues which were neglected for a long time due to instability, conflicts, fights, and various other crises. On the other hand, these efforts faced huge resistance and massive attacks at home and abroad from those whose interests were harmed. Praise be to Allah, and thanks to the support of our nation and the Parliament as its representative, we were able to overcome these obstacles one by one to arrive at the present day. The second reason for the acceleration in developments is the new crossroads that the world finds itself in. The political and economic international order established by the victors of the Second World War is now falling apart in all areas. The developments during the pandemic have made this collapse much more visible. Almost all institutions, starting from the United Nations in particular, that bear responsibility for the functioning of the current global order in an inclusive manner, have all been in a bottleneck. The ineffectiveness of these institutions in the face of challenges, crises, and needs around the world compound existing vulnerabilities. The so-called developed countries found themselves unable to even help their own citizens in real crisis situations. In short, this distorted order, where the whole world is controlled by the self-serving few, can no longer be maintained. The world is bigger than five has been the motto we have been voicing on every platform for some time to draw attention to this state of affairs. The way forward is either to restructure existing institutions so as to extend security, stability, and prosperity to humanity as a whole, or to build new institutions to meet this need. We are of the opinion that these challenges can be met by restructuring existing institutions in a more equitable way. When we first our conviction that the functioning of the global order needed to change, many people distanced themselves from this very topic. However, we now see that these groups are beginning to support our view, having witnessed the situation that emerged after the pandemic. Here I would like to repeat this once again. Every corner of the world, east and west, north and south, needs security. The world needs peace for all people, wherever they might be living. The world needs a fair distribution of resources to be provided equally to everyone. The air, water, trees, and all the beauties of the world, which are entrusted to us by Allah, need protection. It is imperative that we establish a global order of governance that will enable this outcome. Otherwise, conflict, pain, persecution, and plunder will inevitably prevail all around the world, and developed countries will not be immune to these developments. Our efforts as Turkey focus on suggesting and discussing solutions that will save humanity from such a threat. God willing, our efforts in this regard will bear fruit. In this context, we are pleased to see that our Parliament has been fulfilling all of its responsibilities. Distinguished members of Parliament, as a country, we are located at the heart of a region where there are many global crises. The scars of the tragic massacres and conflicts in the Balkans that took place nearly 30 years ago are still fresh in our minds. It is also clear that lasting peace and security remain elusive from the region. In the Black Sea, the crisis that began with the occupation of Crimea has the potential to escalate at any moment. The Caucasus remains a crisis-ridden territory with potential conflicts ready to erupt on every inch of its territory. Indeed, the clashes that broke out as a result of the attack on Azerbaijan by Armenia, which currently occupies Nagorno-Karabakh, is a case in point. I would like to take this opportunity once again to reiterate that we stand by our Azeri brothers in their struggle to end the occupation of their territory and to protect their homeland. I would also like to draw your attention to the Minsk tripartite alliance, United States, Russia, and France. And the fact that for close to 3 decades, they have neglected this problem. And that's why these negative developments have taken place today. The fact that they are now in search of a ceasefire is not something that is acceptable. Do you want something? In that case, you need to provide that the occupiers should leave this territory so that you can reach a resolution there. We're talking about an area of 1 million square kilometers. And our Azerbaijani brothers are now waiting for the day, they're longing for the day that they will go back to their territories. But nobody is coming close to this. First of all, this is what you need to put on the table. This is something that we talked to President Putin about and to Macron, but they always were on the table, they sat, and they did not reach any result. Now is the time to reach a conclusion. And our Azeri brothers have taken the step to resolve this once and for all for themselves. I would also like to draw your attention to the hypocrisy of those who remained blind, deaf, and mute in the face of the civilian massacres and the occupation of the ancient lands of Karabakh in Azerbaijan by Armenia. This is hypocrisy in the best sense of the word. Words by those who remain silent in the face of the occupation and accuse those who fight to save their homeland and their supporters carry no weight for us. Turkey will continue to extend its wholehearted support to its brothers in Azerbaijan, whom we regard as 2 states, 1 nation, in every possible way. Today, the occupation of Karabakh reminds us of the feelings expressed by the late Abdurrahim Karakoç in the following verse. This is actually something that we're experiencing alive today. This ploy cannot last until eternity. This ploy will not prosper the cruel. This ploy will not end the way that they hope for. We represent the bread and salt of the oppressed. We feel the pain of your wound. Yes, God willing, this despicable ploy that will not prosper the cruel is now going to be destroyed. The road to lasting peace in this region is possible by the withdrawal of Armenians from every inch of Azeri territory they occupy. I warn the Armenian administration that will not be saved by their persistent slander against Turkey at every opportunity. And I warn those who support this rogue state that they will be held to account before the collective conscience of humanity. May Allah help and embrace our brothers in Azerbaijan. I extend my condolences to our brothers and sisters in Azerbaijan and pray for Allah's mercy for those who were martyred in the struggle. Distinguished brothers, distinguished members of parliament, when we move south on the crisis map, we come to the Gulf region. The Gulf that has had to struggle with many problems, including the Iran-Iraq war, the occupation of Kuwait, the clashes in Yemen, and the threats against Qatar, continues to remain turbulent. On this occasion, I wish Allah's mercy on the Emir of Kuwait, Al-Ahmad Al-Jabir Al-Sabah, who passed away the day before yesterday. We regarded him as one of the wise and prudent leaders in the region. Unlike the late Al-Sabah, the rulers of some countries in the region pursue policies that almost repudiate their very existence and defy reason, logic, justice and conscience, further deepening the crisis. Some of these countries target us because we speak the truth and we stand by the oppressed and we seek justice. It should not be forgotten that the countries in question did not exist in the recent past and they will probably not exist in the future. But with Allah's mercy, we will continue to fly our flag in this geography forever. The instability that has prevailed in Iraq since the Gulf War has caused our country the greatest harm. For years, the separatist terrorist organization carried out bloody attacks in our country by using Iraq's regions close to our border as a base. Recently, we began to eliminate the dens of terrorists on the Iraqi border one by one as part of our strategy to eradicate the terrorist threat at its source. We will carry out operations until we fully eliminate these serious groups that are a cause for concern also to the northern Iraq regional government. It is our greatest wish that the administration in Baghdad ensures political unity and territorial integrity in the country as soon as possible in a way that will also protect the rights of our Turkmen brothers and sisters. In its 10th year, the Syrian crisis is undoubtedly the most tragic, bloody, and painful problem in our region. Moreover, every aspect of this issue concerns us very closely. First of all, we have a 911-kilometer border with this country. The people living on both sides of the border share a common past dating back thousands of years. There are extensive and deep human, cultural, social, and even economic relationships brought about by this deep-rooted past. Syria has always held a critical place in Turkey's 40-year fight against terrorism. Moreover, the most influential terrorist organizations in Syria in the last 10 years, as stability eroded in the country, have been Daesh, PKK, YPG. And they try to continue this with resistance. In our cities, we host nearly 4 million people who have fled from the persecution and war in Syria. Likewise, we also meet the needs of 4 million people in Syria who are in need. Turkey is the only country in the world that has the right to be involved in all aspects of the Syrian issue. Whoever claims that Turkey has no business in Syria either does not know the region and its history or has other schemes in mind. Turkey will continue to use every available means and method to secure its borders until a solution is reached in Syria on the basis of political unity and territorial integrity. We carried out operations Euphrates Shield, Olive Branch, and Peace Spring for this very purpose, and we are present in Idlib for this purpose. We did not surrender our borders to terrorist organizations and their puppeteers, and we will never do so. We will continue to conduct operations in places which are outside the areas where we have established security until the last terrorist is destroyed, because these areas are used to launch attacks against our country and our brothers. We will continue to protect the oppressed who are shunned and turned away by countries when it comes to preach about humanism, human rights, and respect to the other. In the European Parliament, it was a member of parliament from our country who brought up the issue of over 100,000 missing refugee children in Europe. It was the European Union that promised to pay 3 billion euros plus 3 billion euros this is very important, to our country for the food and accommodation expenses of the Syrian refugees. And then they refused to honor most of that promise by creating simple, lame excuses. And they have not been speaking right. They have not been honest. We are giving figures to them. If they want evidence, we are asking them to come and see the investment that we have made, but it doesn't serve their purpose. We do not expect those who uphold their own safety and welfare at the expense of even the minimum requirements of humanity to understand the virtuous attitude of our country. The fact that 411,000 Syrians have safely and voluntarily returned home so far indicates that our country is doing the right thing. Turkey is the most ardent supporter of the efforts carried out in international platforms for a political solution to the crisis in Syria. God willing, we will continue to protect our borders and stand by the oppressed until that day arrives. Esteemed members of Parliament, the developments in the Eastern Mediterranean are the most significant naval struggle for Turkey in the last few centuries. Peace prevailed in this region for centuries, thanks to our control over the Mediterranean that was established following the Preveza naval battle victory 482 years ago. We won great victories, not only on land, but also at sea in our epic resurrection in the Çanakkale Gallipoli War. As citizens of this country, we owe it to Barbaros Hayrettin Pasha and other heroes to claim their legacy of peace. This is our duty. Turkey does not seek conflict, tension, injustice, or lawlessness in the Mediterranean. We only demand that our rights and interests are respected. We give priority to an equitable solution to resolve disputes on the sharing of the political and economic potential in the Mediterranean. However, the attitude displayed by Greece and the Greek Cypriots since 2003 is unfortunately far from this principle. Not a single problem in our region has been resolved in our initiative or by the weight of the European Union. Not a single issue, like I said, has been resolved by the EU initiatives, and it has been a structure which is purposeless. To the contrary, every crisis where the Union intervened has festered and took on new dimensions. In this context, Turkey has had no other option but to resort to its own means and implement its policies with determination. The agreement we signed with Libya in our response to attempts to exclude our country from the Mediterranean is only one such act. With this agreement, we had the opportunity to expand our efforts to protect the rights of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus further. Those who have ignored our country in the region for many years and confronted us with maps and demands to confine us to our coastal borders first tried the language of threat and blackmail as a response to the steps we took. However, they were forced to accept dialogue after having witnessed Turkey's firm position, which was supported by the land, sea, and air forces of its brave army and its intelligence service, in addition to its political and diplomatic power. At this point, which has been reached with the intense efforts of Germany in particular, it is up to our counterparts to choose to solve the problem by way of negotiation or to escalate in the situation, even to start conflict if things go that far. We will maintain our firm stance and keep channels of dialogue open to the end. I wonder how many countries can match Turkey's efforts and sacrifice to achieve peace in a world of heightened conflict. The fact that we rank first in humanitarian aid, even though we are not the largest economy in the world, is proof of our conduct, is it not? The fact that our country hosts the highest number of refugees in the world, despite the economic burden and the security risks on our borders, is proof of our conduct, is it not? The fact that we always use our power and initiative in favor of mediation in every platform, including the United Nations and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, is also proof of our conduct. In light of these facts, we invite all countries and the European Union, and our neighbors in particular, to support Turkey's struggle for peace and security, or at the very least, to respect it. Another crisis that our country and our nation has been carefully following is the Israeli oppression of Palestinians and the impudent practices that disregard the sanctity of Jerusalem. I would like to highlight one issue here. Jerusalem is not an ordinary geopolitical problem as far as we are concerned. First of all, the old city, including the walls, the bazaar, and many buildings at the heart of Jerusalem, was built by Suleiman the Magnificent. Our ancestors have shown their respect to this city for centuries by placing it in high esteem and by ensuring its development. The city that we had to leave behind in tears in World War I still bears traces of the Ottoman resistance. So Jerusalem is our city, a city that is part of us. Our first Qibla, Al-Aqsa, and the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem are the symbolic mosques of our faith. Moreover, this city is home to the holy places of Christianity and Judaism. The occupation of Jerusalem and the lands of the Palestinian people, who have been the inhabitants of the region for thousands of years, and the usurpation of their rights give us cause to pay close attention to this issue. We consider it an honor on behalf of our country and our nation to defend the rights of the oppressed people of Palestine, with whom we have lived together for centuries on every platform. With this understanding, we will pursue both the Palestinian cause, which is a bleeding wound in our global conscience, and the cause of Jerusalem until the very end. Dear members of parliament, starting with Gezi protests, our economy has been a major target of intensive attacks against Turkey. We managed to overcome the foreign exchange trap set on our economy in August 2018 and had a strong outlook in 2019. In fact, last year, the current account balance registered a surplus of $8.8 billion. Inflation decreased to 11.8%. The ratio of the budget deficit to national income fell below 3%. Again, in 2019, our exports reached $181 billion, and we ranked 6th among 50 countries in the world in terms of export growth. As a result, we increased our share in global exports to almost 1%. We started 2020 with great hope after having kept the annual growth rate close to 1% in 2019, despite many unfavorable developments. The 4.4% growth rate in the first quarter of this year was a sign that we were progressing towards our targets with determination. This was the climate in which we got caught by the coronavirus pandemic, which affected our country as well as the whole world. Our priority during the pandemic was, of course, to protect the health of our nation. In addition, we tried to ensure that our economy survived the pandemic with the least damage possible by introducing support packages. The total economic size of the support and packages we have announced so far has reached 495 billion Turkish lira, or approximately 10% of our national income. We provided unconditional payments amounting to more than 35 billion TL to our nation and to the economy as a social safety net. In this context, we paid almost 19 billion Turkish lira directly to workers as short-time work allowance. We used almost 4.5 billion TL to provide a cash wage support in order to protect employment. We made active use of the unemployment benefit and offered 3.6 billion Turkish lira to support our people. While the Social Security Institution and Bağkur payments that we postponed reached 40 billion Turkish lira, deferred tax payments have approached to 30 billion Turkish lira. We supported our economy by tax reductions, force majeure implementations, and credit guarantee fund limit increases. We encouraged public banks to transfer over 267 billion TL as a financing for our economy. We ensured that the financial needs of all segments of society were met by providing personal loans, support for self-employed, work attendance support, and corporate and individual loan deferral. Of course, we were not pleased with the 9.9% negative growth in the second quarter of the year. This was displeasing for us. However, generally speaking, contraction in the Turkish economy is far below the OECD and European Union averages. All indices and data that are announced for the third quarter point out that the economy is recovering rapidly and that the losses will be compensated in a short time. The indices and data that are announced confirm and support this outlook. In addition to the foreign demand reduction, the export for September has increased by 4.8% and has surpassed $16 billion. This is the highest September export rate of the history of the Republic, which I want to specifically mention here. Our aim is to achieve a V-type recovery and to close this year with a positive growth rate. The growth rate we have set for the coming year is 5.8%. In fact, we chose to keep our expectation at a moderate level, even though we believe that the growth rate might be even higher than this. After the many attacks and shocks, the Turkish economy has become more resilient to vulnerabilities and more prepared to crisis. Many states, including developed countries, could not prevent the impact on healthcare services during the pandemic from spreading to the rest of their economies and government systems. Turkey, on the other hand, has distinguished itself in all of these areas from other countries and has become the rising star of its region and the world. OECD has presented the Turkish economy as the third economy least affected by the pandemic in the world. We are in a better position than developed and developing countries, even in terms of negative developments, such as the partial increase in the budget deficit. The fact that we climbed 10 steps to 33rd position in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index demonstrates the success of our structural reforms. The new economy program, covering the next 3 years, was built on an innovative, high value-added, export-oriented, and inclusive model of development. God willing, we will deliver our 2023 targets in the economy as well as in every other field in Turkey. Esteemed members of Parliament, the treatment for COVID-19, which originated in China and spread to the world in a short time, is yet to be determined. Although vaccine trials are progressing, it is clear that time is needed to make it available to the whole world. In addition to following vaccination studies in other countries, Turkey has also been involved in an intensive effort to produce its own vaccine. Turkey is ahead of many countries in the world in terms of the methods utilized to fight against the pandemic. There is no doubt that the great transformation we initiated in the healthcare system in the last 18 years and the infrastructure we have built made significant contribution to this positive outcome. The bed capacity of the hospitals we have opened since the pandemic spread to our country in March alone exceeds 15,000. God willing, we will officially inaugurate the city hospital in Konya tomorrow and contribute to our healthcare infrastructure even further. Healthcare workers now make up the largest part of the public sector employment with 1,100,000 personnel. Had Turkey not developed its healthcare system and capacity to this extent, God forbid we could have been defeated by this pandemic and would have been unable to overcome it. On this occasion, I would like to express my gratitude once again to our healthcare workers who have been serving with great dedication during the pandemic. And again, God willing, I would like to wish mercy on the souls of the healthcare professionals who lost their lives during this period. God willing, like I said, we will overcome this calamity by joining forces as a state and the nation. In addition to providing uninterrupted services to our citizens during the pandemic, we have responded to calls of support from 153 countries and 8 international organizations. Furthermore, we brought back more than 100,000 citizens who were temporary visitors in 141 different countries around the world by air, land, and sea connections that we established. We also facilitated the returns of 5,500 foreigners from 67 different countries to return back to their own countries. Turkey has fulfilled its moral duty both in Turkey and abroad during this pandemic, even as developed countries left their citizens to their own devices. So far, neither our country nor the world has been able to stop this pandemic. Thanks to the timely measures and the effective treatment protocols that we have developed in our country, we have been able to keep the process under control. We will continue this fight until the day when the pandemic is no longer a threat, either naturally or with a drug treatment. Best and most effective measures in combating the pandemic are still good hygiene, wearing a mask, and social distancing, which we call tamam in Turkish. God willing, we will defeat this virus together and advance towards a healthy, prosperous, peaceful, and bright future. With these feelings, I would like to extend my best wishes to our country, our nation, and the members of Parliament on the occasion of the 4th legislative year of the 27th term of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey. I wish you success in your deliberations in the Parliament, and I salute you all with love and respect. All the best. We would like to thank His Excellency, the President.